The wind howled outside like a living thing, carrying with it the sting of winter snow. David Miller sat in his small wooden cabin. Far from the nearest town, the fire crackled in the fireplace, filling the room with warm orange light. He had spent many nights alone here, and he liked it that way. But tonight was different. Somewhere in the distance, he thought he heard something. It was faint at first, almost lost under the roar of the wind. Then it came again. A sound that didn't belong in the forest. Knock. Knock, knock. David froze. His hand stopped halfway to his cup of coffee. He listened. But the sound did not come again. Maybe it was just the wind throwing something against the wall. Then it came again, this time louder, deliberate. Knock. Knock, knock. David slowly stood. His cabin was far from the road. No one came here without a reason, and no one, absolutely no one, would come in the middle of a winter storm. He glanced at the old hunting rifle leaning against the wall. The third knock was softer. Almost hesitant, David's brow furrowed. He walked to the door, each step slow. The wood floor creaked under his boots. "Who's there?" He called. His voice was steady, but his heart beat faster. No answer, only the wind whistled through the trees outside. David unlocked the heavy bolt and pulled the door open and froze. Standing in the swirling snow was a tall figure. A woman. No, not a woman. At least not entirely. Her skin shimmered like polished silver under the moonlight. Her eyes glowed faint blue, catching the light in an unearthly way. Her hair was long and white, blowing gently even though the air was wild and sharp. In her hands she held two small children. Their eyes were wide, their faces pale. They looked cold, afraid, and not completely human. Before David could speak, the woman stepped forward. Her voice was soft, melodic, and carried an accent he had never heard before. "I will warm your bed, human. My children need a father." David's mouth went dry. He blinked, certain he had misheard. "What?" She took another step closer. The children clung to her legs. "We have nowhere else to go," she said. "We have been walking for many hours. The cold will kill them. Please, let us in." David's instinct screamed caution. This could be a trick. Something about her didn't feel right. Not just the glowing eyes or the silver skin, but the way she looked at him, like she knew him. "How do you know me?" he asked. His voice was low, careful. Her lips trembled. "Because you look like him, the one who saved us." David stared at her. The wind pushed snow through the open door. The children shivered violently. Their breath came out in thin, white clouds. He had seen strange things before, during his years as an engineer on deep space cargo ships. But this was different. This was on his doorstep, in his world. Against his better judgment, he stepped aside. "Come in," he said. She nodded once, quickly, and ushered the children inside. The warmth of the fire washed over them. The woman let out a sigh, as if she had been holding her breath. David closed the door and locked it again. He leaned his rifle against the wall. Keeping it close enough to grab, the woman knelt by the fire, wrapping the children in a heavy blanket. Their skin had a faint glow under the light. Not bright, but just enough to notice. "What's your name?" David asked. "Serenia," she said, without looking at him, "and theirs?" She smiled faintly. Lyra and Tovin. David studied them. The children avoided his gaze, hiding their faces in the blanket. "You said?" "I look like someone who saved you," David said. Serenia finally looked up at him. Her eyes were calm but sad. He was a human soldier. He gave his life so that my children and I could escape. "I thought..." Her voice broke slightly. "I thought maybe you could help us now." David leaned back against the wall. Something about this was too strange. Too sudden. He wanted to demand answers, where she came from, what she was running from, but her words were still echoing in his mind. "I will warm your bed, human. My children need a father." Outside, the wind howled louder, and beneath it, David thought he heard something else. A clicking sound, faint but sharp, like claws on ice. The firelight painted warm colors on the cabin walls. But David could still feel the cold from outside clinging to the air. Serenia sat close to the flames with her children, rubbing their small hands. Her silver skin reflected the fire like polished metal. David watched from his chair. His rifle leaned within reach. He had not decided if she was a guest or a danger. "You said you're running," David said at last. "From what?" Serenia's eyes lifted to his. Blue light swirled faintly in them. "Not from what," she said softly. "From who?" David waited, letting the silence work. He knew sometimes people revealed more when they didn't rush. She took a breath. "My home is not far in your sky. A world called Avales. Once it was peaceful. My people lived near the crystal lakes and harvested light from the twin suns. We did not fight, we did not invade, but peace is a weakness in some eyes." Her voice was calm. But there was steel under it. One cycle ago, the war came. It was not our war. 2 alien factions fought across the stars, and my world was caught. In the middle, one side wanted our resources. The other wanted to erase us so the first could not have them. We had no armies, no weapons like theirs. We were prey. David leaned forward, and the human soldier. Her lips curved slightly, not quite a smile. His name was Captain Ross Miller. David's heart gave a sharp beat. His last name, he didn't know any Ross Miller in his family. But the name struck a chord. He was sent by Earth's military. As an observer, Serenia continued, "When the war reached our cities, he stayed to help. He taught my people to fight. He protected me and the children's father." David blinked. The children's father wasn't him. "No," she said quietly. "My husband was killed during an evacuation. Captain Miller promised to get me and my children to safety. He died keeping that promise." Her gaze grew distant. "Before he fell, he told me if anything happened, I should find another human, someone strong, someone who would not turn away. He gave me an old picture from his belongings." "A picture of you?" David stared at her. His mind spun. He had never met a Captain Ross Miller, never given him a picture. "That's impossible," he said. But his voice was not certain. Serenia shrugged lightly. "Perhaps, but when I saw your face tonight, I knew." The fire popped, sending a small spray of sparks up the chimney. The children had fallen asleep against her, their breathing soft, but David's unease grew. "You said who you're running from," David said. "Who are they?" Serenia's eyes darkened. "Hunters," the word seemed heavier than it should. "They are not soldiers," she said. "They are predators. Bred for one task, to track and take what they are told to find. They do not ask questions. They do not bargain. They smell life as a wolf smells blood." David frowned. "Why you? Why the kids?" Serenia glanced at her children, her voice dropping. "Because they are not only my children, they carry the blood of my husband's people. And something else, something older, something the hunter's masters want. If they take the children, they will use them to open a gate that should never be opened." David felt a cold prickle at the back of his neck. "Gate?" She nodded slowly. "Not a door like yours, a door between worlds, where things that should sleep are waiting. The hunters will not stop. Not tonight. Not until they have them." David was silent. The sound from earlier, that clicking under the wind, returned. In his memory, he realized it had been growing, faint but steady, like it was circling the cabin. "You brought them here," David said. "That means they're coming here." Serenia's expression did not change. "Yes." David pushed himself to his feet. "Then we'd better be ready. You would help us?" Serenia asked. Her voice was soft but curious. David paused. He looked at the sleeping children, at their small glowing veins. He didn't understand all of this. In truth, most of it sounded impossible, but he could not throw them out into the storm. "Not if what she said was true. I'll help," he said, "but I need to know everything." Serenia stood, moving with a grace that reminded David she wasn't human. "Then I will tell you," she said, "but while we talk, you should light more fire and bring the metal bar from the corner, the one with the black case." David hesitated. "How do you know about that?" "I saw it when I came in," she said simply. "It is a weapon." "Yes." David nodded slowly, walking to the corner. He opened the black case. Inside was a long steel staff, an old combat tool from his ship days. He hadn't used it in years. The clicking sound outside grew sharper, closer. Serenia's eyes flicked to the door. "We have little time, David Miller," she said. David gripped the staff, feeling the old weight in his hands. "Then tell me the rest, Serenia," he said. "And tell it fast." The sound came again, louder this time, a sharp click, followed by a scraping noise. David froze near the window. The firelight no longer felt warm. Serenia's head turned slowly toward the sound. Her eyes glowed brighter. The children stirred in their blanket. Sensing the tension in the room, "They're close," she whispered. David stepped to the side of the window and peeked out. At first, he saw only the storm-thick flakes of snow swirling in the wind. Then, a shape moved between the trees, tall and thin. The figure stood still for a moment, blending with the darkness. Then, it tilted its head, and David saw the reflection of two red eyes. He pulled back from the window, his voice low. "One of them is out there." Serenia nodded once. "Where one comes, others follow." David's grip tightened on the steel staff. He had faced danger before, pirates in deep space, mechanical failures in orbit, but this was different. This was something hunting him, not just circumstance. The clicking sound began to circle the cabin. It was joined by another, then another. The noise was rhythmic, like claws tapping against ice. "How many?" David asked. "4, maybe 5. Serenia said, "The snow hides more." David thought fast. The cabin was strong. Built to handle storms, but not built to handle. Whatever these were, he moved to the back wall and pulled open a wooden chest. Inside were a few tools, some rope, and a heavy coil of chain. "Windows and doors," he said. "We block them now." Serenia stood, placing herself between the fire and the children. She raised her hand, and a faint shimmer spread across the air like heat waves. "What's that?" David asked. "A shield," she said. "It will hide our scent for a time." The clicking stopped. Silence fell, but it was the wrong kind of silence, the kind that meant the predator was watching. David worked quickly, chaining the door and placing heavy chairs under the handles. He covered the windows with thick curtains, but left a small gap to look outside. Snow swirled in the darkness, but every so often he caught movement. The shapes didn't walk like humans. They moved in jerks, quick bursts followed by stillness. Their bodies seemed to blend with the trees until they turned, and the faint light caught on Slick. Black armor, one of them stepped into the open. David's breath caught. The thing was tall, at least 8 feet, with long jointed limbs, ending in sharp claws. Its head was narrow, insect-like, with no mouth that he could see. Only 2 large red eyes glowed under a thin layer of frost. It turned its head slowly toward the cabin. David ducked back. "They found us," he said. Serenia's voice was calm but urgent. "They always find us. The question is how long we can keep them out." A loud thud shook the wall. The children cried out. Serenia's shield shimmered again. "They're testing the walls." David muttered. Another thud, then a scraping sound. Like something dragging claws along the wood, they won't stop until they find a way in. Serenia said, "They are patient." David took a deep breath. "Then we give them a reason to leave." Serenia tilted her head. "What reason?" He pointed to the fire. "Smoke. We can make it thick. Make them think the cabin is burning. They might back off long enough for us to plan." Serenia considered. then nodded. "It might work, but we must also prepare for when it does not." The thudding stopped again. Then, a shadow passed across the window. One of the creatures was peering inside. Its red eyes locked with David's for a heartbeat. Then it vanished into the storm. "That's not good," David said. "That means it's looking for a weak spot." Serenia moved to the far corner of the cabin and knelt. Pressing her hand against the floor, a faint blue circle of light appeared under her palm. "What are you doing?" David asked, calling for help. She said, "If anyone from my people is near, they will feel it." David swallowed. "And if no one is near?" Her eyes met his. "Then we fight until we can't." Outside, the clicking started again. This time, it was faster, more urgent. The sound came from every side. The hunters were closing in. David felt the weight of the staff in his hands. He remembered nights in deep space where one wrong move meant death. That same feeling was here now. Only difference was, this time, there were children involved. The first impact came at the back door. A loud, splintering crack. David ran to brace. Serenia joined him, her strength surprising for her size. Another crash came from the side wall. Then a sharp tearing sound as claws began to rip through the wood. "They're not waiting anymore?" David said. "No," Serenia replied. "They're hungry." David's pulse quickened. He glanced at the children, their eyes wide, glowing. Faintly in the dim light, they clung to each other outside. One of the hunters let out a low, vibrating sound. It was not a roar. It was worse, a signal. David tightened his grip on the staff. "Get ready," he said. "They're coming." The back door shuddered under another heavy blow. Splinters fell to the floor. David's arms burned from holding the steel staff ready. Serenia stood beside him, her eyes scanning every shadow. The clicking sound of the hunters was all around. Now, sometimes near, sometimes far. They were testing the cabin like wolves circling a camp. David looked at the children. They were huddled under a blanket near the fireplace, their small faces pale. But their eyes, those strange glowing eyes, were fixed on the walls as if they could see through them. Another impact shook the cabin. David cursed under his breath. "We can't hold them off forever." Serenia's jaw tightened. "If they get inside, they won't kill us quickly." David didn't ask what she meant. He already guessed. Then something strange happened. The older child, Lyra, stood up, her tiny feet silent on the wooden floor. She walked to the wall where the hunters were scratching. "Lyra," Serenia said sharply, "back to the fire." But the girl didn't move. Instead, she placed her small hand flat on the wall. David frowned. "What's she doing?" A faint light spread from the girl's palm. It moved across the wood-like veins of liquid silver. The scratching on the other side stopped. Serenia's eyes widened. "No, not now. It's too soon." The boy Tovin crawled out from the blanket and joined his sister. His small hands touched the wall. The silver light grew brighter, spreading in branching lines like frost patterns. David stepped closer, his voice low. "What is that?" Serenia's voice was tight. "That is why they are hunting us." The wood began to hum, a deep, soft vibration David could feel in his chest. The air smelled faintly of ozone outside. One of the hunters screeched a high metallic cry of pain. The light under the children's hands pulsed once, twice, then it shot outward, passing through the wall as if it wasn't there. David saw it spill into the snow beyond, illuminating the storm-like moonlight. The hunter screamed, the clicking sound turned chaotic. The shadows outside moved quickly. Away from the cabin, David stared at the children. The glow faded slowly from their hands. Lyra looked up at him, her eyes brighter than ever. "We can hurt them," she said simply. Serenia crossed the room quickly. Kneeling beside her children, she held their hands gently. "You must not use it unless you must," she said firmly. But Mama, Tovin said. They were going to. Come in, I know, Serenia replied, and you were brave, but the more you use your gift, the easier it will be for them to track us. David blinked. Gift. Serenia looked at him. They are part of my people, part human. And part something older, something that lived before my world was formed. David raised an eyebrow. Older. You mean another species? Serena shook her head. Not exactly. My ancestors were once touched by an energy, a living force. That came from a place outside our space. It gave them the power to shape matter, to make walls unbreakable, or to tear them apart. The gift passes rarely, but when it does, it makes the bearer valuable. And dangerous. David let out a slow breath, and these kids. Both have it, yes, Serenia said, but they are too young to control it. If they try too hard, it could burn them from inside. David looked at the wall where the light had been. The wood was still warm. The storm outside raged on, but the hunters had fallen silent again. He knew it wouldn't last. So, they know the kids can hurt them, he said. That means next time, they'll hit harder. Serenia nodded. Yes, and faster. The boy tugged at David's sleeve. Well, you help us. David crouched, so he was at the boy's level. I'll help, he said, but you both have to listen. No more surprises like that unless we decide together. The children nodded solemnly. A loud thump came from the roof. David's head snapped. Up, something heavy was moving above them. Snow fell from the rafters. They're trying the top. David muttered. He grabbed his rifle and pointed to Serenia. Get the kids to the far corner. She moved quickly, pulling them close. The sound of claws scraped along the roof. The wood creaked under the weight. David's mind raced. He couldn't shoot through the roof without letting the cold in. And if the hunters got inside from above, it would be chaos. Then he heard it. A faint whisper in the storm, not from the hunters, but something else. It was like a low hum, familiar in a way he couldn't place. Serenia's eyes widened. She looked at the ceiling. That's not them. She said, That's one of mine? David frowned. One of yours? You mean help. Maybe, Serenia said, but the hunters will hear it too. The children clung to her tightly. David checked his rifle and staff, his breath slow and steady. If help was coming, they'd have to survive long enough to meet it. The hum in the distance grew louder. David kept his eyes on the ceiling while gripping the steel staff. He could hear the hunters shifting on the roof, their claws scraping against the wood. The weight of them made the old cabin groan. Serenia moved the children into the farthest corner, wrapping them in blankets. Her silver skin caught the firelight, making her look like a statue carved from moonlight. The children's glowing eyes followed every sound. Then, without warning, the first impact came. The roof dipped inward as something heavy slammed down. Snow rained from the rafters. David raised his rifle, aiming at the point of impact. A sharp, metallic screech echoed above them, and then a hunter's head punched through the wood. Its red eyes glared into the cabin. The mouthless face opened along strange vertical lines, revealing rows of moving, needle-like parts that clattered against each other like teeth. David fired. The shot ripped through the thin layer of frost on the creature's head. Black fluid sprayed. The hunter pulled back with a shriek that rattled the windows. Another crash shook the wall to David's left. Wood splintered, and a clawed hand shot through. Its talons sank deep into the floorboards, dragging them toward the gap. David swung the steel staff. The blow cracked across the creature's arm. The hunter hissed and withdrew, but the scratching sounds only grew faster. They're trying every side at once, David said, his voice low but tense. Serenia stepped forward, her hands glowing faintly blue. She placed her palms against the wall where the last strike had hit. The wood shimmered, hardening. The glow spread in thin lines like veins of light. "Hold them off," she said. "I'll reinforce the walls." David moved toward the front door. Something was pounding on it from outside. The chain rattled, the hinges groaned. Then, with a final crash, the top half of the door split inward. A hunter forced its way through, ducking its long frame to enter. It was taller than David had expected, even crouched. Its black armor gleamed wet in the firelight. Each movement was sharp and insect-like. David didn't hesitate. He charged forward, swinging the staff low. The metal cracked against the hunter's leg, making it stagger. He followed with a hard strike to its torso. But the armor absorbed most of the blow. The hunter lunged, claws flashing. David blocked with the staff. The impact rattled his arms. He stepped back, keeping himself between the creature and the children. Then Serenia's voice rang out, sharp and commanding. "Now, Lyra." David turned his head just enough to see the girl standing with one hand. Raised light flared from her palm, hitting the hunter square in the chest. The creature screamed, a high-pitched sound that made the air vibrate. It stumbled back, smoke rising from the point of impact. The boy Tovin joined in. His smaller light struck the hunter's head. The creature reeled, crashing into the broken doorframe before vanishing into the snow outside. But there was no time to breathe. Another hunter burst through the sidewall. This one moved faster. Weaving around David's swings, it slammed him into the table, breaking it in half. The breath left his lungs in a rush. Serenia was on it in an instant. Her hand glowed brighter than before as she struck the creature's shoulder. The armor hissed and cracked. The hunter screeched and backhanded her across the room. She hit the wall hard but pushed herself up. The children's lights flared again, twin bursts of silver cutting through the air. The second hunter staggered but did not fall. It turned toward the children, claws raised. David forced himself up, pain in his ribs. He charged and slammed the steel staff into the back of its neck. The blow cracked something. The hunter collapsed. To its knees, the children hit it one last time, and it fell forward, motionless. The cabin was filled with the sound of heavy breathing and the faint hiss of snow blowing through the broken wall. For a moment, there was silence outside. David looked at Serenia, at all of them. She shook her head slowly. "No, they're regrouping." The boy spoke quietly. "They won't stop now. They know we can hurt them." Serenia's eyes met David's. "We have to leave before more arrive." David glanced at the broken door and wall. The cabin would not hold another attack. "Where?" he asked. "There's a place," Serenia said, "in the mountains. 2 days from here, if we reach it, we might find safety." The clicking returned outside. Faint, but growing. David's grip on the staff tightened. "Then we move now," he said. Serenia gathered the children. David grabbed what little food and ammunition he had left. The fire crackled behind them, casting the last warm light the cabin would ever hold. When they stepped outside, the storm wrapped around them like a living thing. Somewhere in the snow, red eyes watched, waiting for the next chance to strike. The storm swallowed them as soon as they stepped away from the cabin. Snow whipped against David's face, sharp as glass. He pulled the scarf tighter around his neck. But the cold still bit through his coat. Serenia walked ahead, holding the children close under a thick blanket. Their small faces peeked out, eyes glowing faintly in the dark, even in the snow. They seemed to see every movement, every shadow behind them. The cabin was just a shape now, firelight leaking through the broken wall. The clicking sound of the hunters was faint, but David knew it would grow louder again. "Where exactly are we going?" David asked, raising his voice over the wind. "To the mountains," Serenia said without looking back. "There is a portal hidden there. It will take us to my people." David pushed through the snow. "A portal, like instant travel." "Yes," Serenia said, "but it works only for those who know how to open it. Without me, it is nothing but a wall of stone." David didn't like the sound of that. And when we go through, there's no coming back, is there? She was silent for a moment. No, she said finally. Once you pass through, you leave this world behind. The wind howled around them. David's boots crunched in the deep snow. His mind was a storm of its own. He had lived on Earth his whole life, fought his battles here, built his home here. The thought of never coming back hit harder than the cold. You could stay, Serenia said suddenly. You could turn back. Now you would be safe. They want me and the children, not you. David stopped walking. Safe. He said, you think they'd just leave me alone after tonight? Serenia turned to face him. The snow stuck to her silver skin, but melted fast from her warmth. You could disappear. Humans are good at hiding from things they don't understand. David's jaw tightened. I've hidden before. Didn't like it then, don't like it now. Her eyes searched his face. If you come with us, you won't just be helping me, you'll be stepping into a war that isn't yours. You will be hunted, tested, pushed to your limits. David thought of the children, of the fear in their eyes when the hunters broke through the wall. There. Just kids, he said. If I walk away now, they don't make it. And if they don't make it, whatever's waiting on the other side of that gate will come here. Serenia's gaze softened. Then you choose to fight. I choose not to regret, David said. A faint clicking drifted through the wind. Closer than before, Serenia looked past him, her voice low. They've found our trail. David scanned the darkness. Shapes moved between the snowflakes, too fast for the wind to be carrying them. We run, Serenia said. Stay close. They pushed forward, the snow growing deeper. The mountain ridge loomed ahead, sharp and black against the white sky. The path wound upward, forcing them to climb. David's legs burned, but he didn't. Slow, the children kept their heads down, but their glowing eyes flicked toward the trees. They're on both sides, Lyra whispered. David glanced right, and sure enough, a shadow moved parallel to them. 4 legs, long limbs, hunched like a predator ready to pounce. Serenia's pace quickened. If they attack before we reach the ridge, we'll have nowhere to defend ourselves. David scanned the slope. The trees were thinner here. The snow was deeper, slowing them all. But the hunters moved like the cold didn't touch them. One broke from the shadows, sprinting toward them. Its claws kicked up snow. Its red eyes locked on the children. David dropped his pack and stepped forward. Swinging the steel staff in a wide arc, the blow caught the hunter's side, making it spin. Serenia's hand flared with blue light, striking its chest. The creature hissed and leaped back. Disappearing into the storm, they're testing us, David said, breathing hard. Next time, they won't pull back. The climb grew steeper. The wind screamed through the rocks. Serenia glanced over her shoulder. Once we reach the stone arch, we're close. Close isn't safe. David muttered but kept moving. Another shadow emerged ahead of them, blocking the path. This one didn't wait. It charged, snow exploding under its claws. David met it head-on. The staff clashed with its armor, sparks flying in the dark. The creature's strength drove him back. His boots slipping on the ice. Now, Tovin. Serenia called. The boy raised his small hands. Silver light shot forward, striking the hunter's leg. It buckled for a moment. David seized the chance and slammed the staff down on its head. The sound of cracking armor cut through the wind. The creature collapsed, twitching, then lay still. But before they could move again, a low, deep rumble came from the mountains above. David's head snapped up. Avalanche. Snow and ice began to roar down the slope. The hunters' clicking grew. Frantic as they scattered, Serenia grabbed the children's hands. Run to the arch. She shouted. David followed, every muscle screaming as they pushed through the snow. The stone arch appeared through the white, ancient, covered in frost. They reached it just as the avalanche thundered past behind them. Serenia turned to David. Her voice calm despite the chaos. "This is the last moment to turn back." David looked at the swirling snow, at the shapes of hunters regrouping in the distance, at the children's frightened eyes. He tightened his grip on the staff. "We go," he said. The stone arch loomed above them, black against the snow. Its surface was carved with strange symbols that glowed faintly in the children's presence. The wind screamed through the pass, carrying the smell of ice and something sharp. Serenia stepped forward and placed her hands on the cold stone. Blue light spread from her fingers. Running along the carvings, the arch began to hum, the sound low and deep. David stood with his back to her, steel staff in one hand, rifle slung across his chest. His eyes scanned the white storm beyond. The hunters were coming, their red eyes like drops of fire in the snow. "How long?" he asked without looking back. "A few moments," Serenia said. "Do not let them break my focus." The clicking grew louder, closer. David counted at least 6 shapes moving fast, weaving between the snow-laden rocks. His pulse pounded in his ears. The first hunter broke from the storm. Charging low, David stepped forward, meeting it with a sharp swing. The staff cracked against its head, but the creature kept coming. Claws flashing, David spun, slammed the staff into its side, and it fell back into the snow. 2 more emerged. On the left, Serenia didn't turn, her voice calm but urgent. "Lyra, Tovin, help him." The children raised their hands. Silver light shot from their palms, striking one hunter in the chest. It screamed and collapsed. The other leapt into the air, clearing the light and landing in front of David. David blocked its claws with the staff, the force rattling his arms. He shoved it back and drove the metal into its throat. The creature twitched, then fell still from the right. 3 hunters came at once. They moved fast, spreading out to surround them. David backed toward the arch, keeping them in sight. "Serenia, they're flanking us. I see them," she said. Her voice strained. The glow from the arch grew brighter, and the air inside it began to shimmer. The first of the 3 lunged. David fired the rifle. The shot tore into its shoulder, making it stumble. The second tried to slip past him toward the children. Lyra's light struck it in the back, sending it sprawling. The third hunter ignored David entirely and leaped for Serenia. David's stomach dropped. He threw himself in front of it, the claws slashing across his coat. Pain burned through his side, but he didn't stop. He swung the staff upward with all his strength, catching the creature under the jaw. The crack echoed in the mountains. The hunter fell back into the snow. Unmoving, David staggered, blood staining the snow at his feet. Serenia's voice rose, just a little longer. The glow from the arch flared. The inside of the stone ring now held a swirling field of light, shifting like liquid silver. The remaining hunters circled, their movements cautious now, but hunger burned in their red eyes. They clicked and hissed, speaking in a language David didn't want to understand. "They'll charge together," David said through gritted teeth. "One last try to get the kids before we step through." Serenia nodded once. "Then we finish it here." The hunters tensed, their claws digging into the snow. Then they came. All at once, David met the first head-on, swinging the staff in a wide arc. The blow caught 2 at once, knocking them aside. Lyra and Tovin's lights flared. Striking the next, the creature screamed. Falling to its knees, a 4th leaped past David, claws reaching for Serenia. She turned, her hands blazing with blue fire. The light exploded against the hunter's chest, throwing it backward into the snow. David fought the last one, trading blow for blow. Pain shot through his side every time he moved. The creature's claws slashed across his arm, but he pushed forward, rage and adrenaline drowning the pain. He brought the staff down hard, the hunter collapsing under the force. Silence fell. Only the wind and the hum of the arch remained. The hunters lay in the snow, some still, some dragging themselves away into the storm. Saranya's voice was steady now. It's ready. David turned, the swirling portal reflecting in his eyes. It was beautiful and strange, a living thing made of light. The children looked up at him. Will you come? Lyra asked. David glanced back at the snowy field. At the shapes of hunters fading into the storm, he thought of the cabin, of Earth, of the life he was leaving. Then he looked at them, small, fragile, but carrying something powerful enough to change worlds. He gripped the staff tighter. I'm coming, he said. Saranya held out her hand. He took it, the warmth of her skin cutting through the cold. Together, they stepped toward the light. The moment they crossed the arch, the cold vanished. The sound of the storm was gone, replaced by a deep, endless silence. The ground beneath them was smooth and glowing. The air felt alive. David looked back one last time. Through the portal, the snow still fell, and red eyes still watched from the shadows. Then the silver light closed, and Earth was gone.